Good morning to you. Jeremiah Jones appeared before a judge at about 9:30 this morning. That's where the judge denied his bond despite requests from his attorney. 22-year-old Jones stood before the judge wearing a yellow jumpsuit. He is charged with capital murder and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. He's accused of shooting his ex-girlfriend and her 9-year-old daughter, Kylie Sorrells, at their home on Oxford on June 13th. Kylie died at a hospital.
This is Kylie Sorrells. Tell me why a man would shoot this little girl right in her head. What sort of punishment could this be? She was just 9 years old. She had never hurt anyone in her entire short life. So why did 22-year-old Jeremiah Jones walk into her bedroom and fire 2 bullets into her skull while her mother watched in horror? This was cold-blooded execution of a child who was lying in bed watching a movie with her family on a Monday night in Houston. But here's what makes this case even more twisted. Jones didn't break into their home. He didn't force his way inside. The door was unlocked and he walked right in that night like he owned the place, because just 2 months earlier he was practically family. He had dated Kylie's mother, Brittany Sorrells, for 8 months. I mean, this guy was already out on 5 different bonds in Harris County when he committed yet another crime. He had earlier sent these messages to Brittany, trying to see if they could start the relationship again, but she had already moved on. She felt he cheated on her, so she called everything off. This was when the real danger began. We're going to reveal the facts about this heinous case now, so stay with us. Welcome to our channel. Right now, there are thousands of children like Kylie who are sleeping safely in their beds, completely unaware that domestic violence in their homes could turn deadly at any moment. If you want to help spread awareness about the warning signs of domestic abuse and how it can destroy innocent lives, then please like this video, share it, and subscribe to this channel. Your action now could help protect another child who might be caught in the crossfire of a toxic relationship. When Brittany Sorrells broke up with Jeremiah Jones, she had no idea she was signing her daughter's death warrant. And the revenge he planned was more brutal than anyone could have imagined. Brittany Sorrells was doing everything right as a single mom. She worked hard to provide for her family and created a warm, loving home in their Heights apartment on Oxford Street. The place wasn't fancy, but it was filled with laughter, movie nights, and the sound of children playing. 9-year-old Kylie was the heart of that home. She was one of those kids who lit up every room she entered. Her energy was infectious. She could dribble a basketball like a pro and wasn't afraid to take on kids twice her size on the court. In fact, she was so good that she earned MVP recognition in youth basketball leagues around Houston. But Kylie wasn't just an athlete. Like most kids her age, she was obsessed with making videos. She would spend hours perfecting her dances and trying to get the perfect shot. Brittany would often find her daughter practicing moves in front of the mirror, completely lost in her own little world of creativity and fun. The little girl was also part of the Brenham Pride Track Club, where she showed the same determination she brought to basketball. Coaches remember her as a kid who never gave up, even when she was tired or frustrated. She had that special quality that made adults believe she was going to do something amazing with her life. Brittany and Kylie had the kind of relationship every parent dreams of. They were more than mother and daughter, they were best friends. They would curl up in bed together to watch movies, sharing popcorn and inside jokes. Brittany would braid Kylie's hair while they talked about school, friends, and all the big dreams a 9-year-old carries in her heart. The apartment was often filled with extended family. Cousins would come and go, creating the kind of busy, loving chaos that makes childhood memories. It was the type of home where doors stayed unlocked because family was always welcome, where kids felt safe to be kids. Kylie was thriving in school and had a tight group of friends who looked up to her confidence and athletic ability. Teachers described her as bright and engaged, the kind of student who asked thoughtful questions and wasn't afraid to speak up in class. She had plans for the summer, more basketball camps, track meets, and lazy days making videos with her friends. But what made Kylie truly special wasn't her athletic talent or her social media skills. It was her heart. She was protective of younger kids and always stood up for anyone being picked on. She had inherited her mother's strength and kindness, and everyone who knew her could see she was going to grow up to be an incredible woman. Brittany was raising her daughter to be independent and strong, but also to trust the people who loved her. She taught Kylie that home was the safest place in the world, that family would always protect her, and that she never had to be afraid when she was surrounded by people who cared about her. That trust, that sense of safety, that belief that home was a sanctuary, it was all about to be destroyed in the most violent way possible. Because while Brittany was building this beautiful life for her daughter, she had no idea that her recent breakup with Jeremiah Jones had put them both in deadly danger. She didn't know that the man she had once trusted was planning something so evil that it would destroy everything she had worked so hard to create. The life they had built together was about to end in 2 gunshots. 8 months before Kylie's murder, Brittany Sorrell thought she had found someone special. Jeremiah Jones was 22 years old, charming, and seemed to genuinely care about her and her daughter. At first, everything felt perfect. Jones would come over for dinner, watch movies with Brittany and Kylie, and act like the family man Brittany had been hoping to find. He seemed to enjoy spending time with her daughter, and Kylie appeared comfortable around him. For a single mother trying to build a stable life, this felt like a blessing, but relationships that start too good to be true often are. As weeks turned into months, small changes began to appear. Jones started asking more questions about where Brittany went when she wasn't with him. He wanted to know who she talked to, who she texted, and why she needed to spend time with friends or family without him there. At first, Brittany probably thought it was sweet. He cared about her so much that he wanted to be involved in every part of her life. But caring and controlling are 2 very different things, and the line between them was getting blurrier every day. Jones began showing up at the apartment unannounced. He would walk in like he lived there, making himself comfortable and acting like he had every right to be there whenever he wanted. The unlocked door policy that worked so well for family members was now being used by someone who was starting to feel more like a threat than a partner. Somehow, Brittany found out that Jones was cheating on her. She wasn't ready for any relationship drama, so she decided to break up with him. Jones never agreed that he cheated. In fact, he was willing to give out his phone password just to prove his innocence. But Brittany stood her ground. The breakup happened about 2 months before the murder. For most people, the end of an 8-month relationship would be disappointing but manageable. You move on, you heal, you find someone better. But for someone like Jeremiah Jones, rejection wasn't just painful, it was unacceptable. Jones couldn't handle the fact that Brittany had chosen to walk away from him. In his mind, she belonged to him, and no one had the right to take that away. The apartment where he had once been welcome was now off limits, and that made him furious. He even tried to see if they could get back together. That was when he sent these messages to Brittany. But she was no longer into him. She had moved on. Brittany thought the worst part was over. The real danger was about to begin. 1 week before Kylie Sorrells was murdered, Jeremiah Jones made his intentions crystal clear. He showed up at Brittany's apartment carrying a gun, and he told her exactly what he planned to do with it. According to court documents, Jones walked into that same Heights apartment where Kylie was shot and threatened to kill Brittany. This wasn't a heated argument that got out of hand. This wasn't something said in the heat of the moment. Jones came prepared with a weapon and delivered a death threat. Think about how terrifying that must have been for Brittany. The man she had dated for 8 months, the man who had sat at her dinner table and watched movies with her daughter, was now standing in her home with a gun, promising to end her life. But here's what makes this case even more tragic. Jones wasn't just some angry ex-boyfriend with no criminal history. He was already in serious trouble with the law.
When he's 18 years old in 2018, you've got a page worth of criminal offenses in Harris County.
The criminal justice system gave Jones break after break, but that didn't stop him from racking up new criminal charges while out on bond. He was even out on bond in Fort Bend County.
At the time he threatened Brittany, Jones was out on bond for other felony charges. The system had already identified him as dangerous. Yet he was free to walk the streets and terrorize his ex-girlfriend. This is where the system failed Brittany and Kylie in the worst possible way. Jones had shown that he was willing to commit serious crimes. He had proven that he couldn't control his anger or follow the law. And now he had escalated to making death threats with a weapon. Every red flag was there. So why was nothing done to protect this family? Why was a man with pending felony charges and a fresh death threat allegation still free to come and go as he pleased? These are the questions that haunt cases like this. After Jones left that night, Brittany must have known she was in real danger. But what could she do? Call the police and hope they would take it seriously? Move out of her home and uproot Kylie's entire life? Try to get a restraining order that might just make Jones angrier? The week that followed was probably filled with fear and uncertainty. Every sound outside the apartment, every unexpected knock on the door, every time her phone rang, it all must have felt like potential danger. Brittany was trying to protect her daughter while living under the constant threat of violence. She was probably hoping that Jones would calm down, that he would move on, that the worst was behind them. She had no way of knowing that Jones was planning something far worse than threats. I need to pause here because this next part is incredibly difficult to discuss. What happened next shows how quickly domestic violence can turn deadly, especially when children are involved. Have you ever witnessed domestic violence escalate to this extent? How did it affect you? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your experiences might help someone else recognize the warning signs. If this case is opening your eyes to how dangerous these situations can become, please subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. June 13th started like any other night in the Sorrells household. Brittany and 9-year-old Kylie were having one of their favorite movie nights, curled up together in the living room of their Heights apartment on Oxford Street. The door was unlocked, as it always was when family was expected. Brittany's cousin had been coming and going throughout the evening, the way family does in close-knit households. It was the kind of normal, peaceful night that makes you feel safe and content. Kylie was probably excited to be staying up a little later than usual, enjoying this special time with her mom. Then everything changed. Around 10:30 p.m., Jeremiah Jones walked through that unlocked door like he still belonged there. But this wasn't the charming man who had once joined their movie nights. This was someone filled with rage and determination to get what he wanted. Jones didn't knock. He didn't ask permission. He simply entered the apartment and immediately began making demands. He wanted to carry the TV, which he believed was his own. In fact, he went as far as ripping the TV from the wall. But the TV was just the beginning. Jones started accusing Brittany of things she hadn't done. His voice was getting louder, his behavior more aggressive. Then Jones did something that showed just how calculated his actions were.
She was looking at him, they were talking and he got upset and, couldn't take no for an answer.
Jones, who was out on bond for several felony charges, dated Sorrells for 8 months and they broke up 2 months ago. Her mom says Brittany secured a restraining order because she says Jones was constantly threatening her daughter. And according to court records, Jones went to Brittany's apartment just last week with a gun and threatened to kill her.
He took Brittany's phone away from her. This wasn't a crime of passion or a moment of lost control. Jones knew exactly what he was doing. By taking her phone, he was cutting off her ability to call for help, to contact family, or to document what was happening. Brittany must have been terrified, but she was also trying to protect her daughter. She probably hoped that if she stayed calm and didn't fight back, Jones would eventually leave and Kylie would be safe. She had no way of knowing that Jones hadn't come there to argue or threaten. He had come there to kill. At some point during this confrontation, Jones forced Brittany to move toward the bedroom. Whether he threatened her, physically pushed her, or she went willingly, hoping to get him away from Kylie, we may never know. But what happened next changed everything. 2 gunshots rang out from that bedroom. The first shot hit Brittany in the shoulder. She was wounded but alive, probably in shock and incredible pain. But Jones wasn't finished. The second shot wasn't meant for Brittany at all. Jones went to the room and shot Kylie Sorrells in the head. After firing those 2 shots, Jones ran. He left Brittany bleeding and wounded, and he left a 9-year-old girl dying on the bedroom floor. The man who had once pretended to care about this family had just destroyed it in the most violent way possible. Brittany, despite being shot and in tremendous pain, had to face every parent's worst nightmare. She found her daughter critically injured and had to get help while dealing with her own gunshot wound. The strength it must have taken to function in that moment is unimaginable. Emergency responders rushed both Brittany and Kylie to the hospital. Brittany's shoulder wound was serious but treatable. Kylie's head injury was catastrophic. The little girl who had been making videos and dominating basketball courts just hours earlier was now fighting for her life. Despite the efforts of medical professionals, Kylie's injuries were too severe. The 9-year-old girl who had brought so much joy and energy to everyone around her was pronounced dead at the hospital. In a matter of minutes, Jeremiah Jones had taken everything from Brittany Sorrells. Her daughter was gone. Her sense of safety was shattered. The home where they had built so many happy memories was now a crime scene. The future she had been working so hard to build for her family was destroyed. And Jones? He was somewhere out there, free, having committed the ultimate act of domestic violence. He had shown that when he couldn't control Brittany, he was willing to kill the person she loved most in the world. The manhunt for Jeremiah Jones was about to begin, but for Brittany Sorrell, nothing would ever be the same again. Within hours of the shooting, Houston police launched one of the most intensive manhunts the city had seen in recent memory. This was the murder of a child, and law enforcement was determined to bring Jones to justice as quickly as possible. SWAT teams were deployed across the city. Officers flooded the Heights neighborhood where the shooting had occurred, going door to door and checking every possible hiding spot. They knew Jones was familiar with the area, and there was a real fear that he might try to harm other people while he was on the run. As a result of this effort, thousands of people were injured and several unnamed up to 10 FDR Jackson. The manhunt stretched across Houston's sprawling metropolitan area. Police checked with Jones's known associates, family members, and anyone who might have information about where he could be hiding. They put out alerts to neighboring law enforcement agencies, knowing that a desperate fugitive might try to flee the city entirely. For 20 long hours, Jones managed to evade capture. Brittany, while receiving treatment, couldn't bear this. That was when she made this post, saying, "If you see this evil-ass man, please tell me, please, for my daughter's justice." She even gave descriptions of Jones. Police received dozens of tips from concerned citizens who thought they had spotted Jones. Each lead had to be investigated, each sighting had to be checked out. The pressure was enormous. Every hour that passed was another hour that Jones remained free and potentially dangerous. The break in the case came when officers spotted Jones in a parking lot on Imperial Valley Drive. After 20 hours of running, hiding, and probably realizing that there was nowhere left to go, Jones was finally cornered. The arrest itself was swift and decisive. SWAT officers surrounded the area, making sure there was no chance for Jones to escape or harm anyone else. When they moved in to make the arrest, Jones didn't resist. The man who had been so violent and aggressive just hours earlier seemed to understand that his time was up. As the handcuffs clicked into place, Jones was officially charged with capital murder for the death of Kylie Sorrells and assault for shooting Brittany. In Texas, capital murder charges carry the possibility of the death penalty, especially when the victim is a child under 10 years old. The relief felt by the Houston community was immediate and overwhelming. Parents could let their children play outside again. Neighbors could sleep peacefully knowing that the killer was behind bars. But for Brittany Sorrells, Jones's arrest couldn't bring back her daughter or undo the trauma of that terrible night. The manhunt was over, but the legal battle was just beginning. Jones would now face the full weight of the Texas justice system, and prosecutors were determined to make sure he paid the ultimate price for taking the life of an innocent child. Within hours of Jones's arrest, prosecutors made it clear they would seek the harshest possible penalties. At his initial court appearance, the judge denied bond entirely, a decision that sent a clear message about the severity of the charges and the perceived danger Jones posed to the community. The evidence against Jones was overwhelming and continued to mount as investigators dug deeper. The GPS tracking data from his ankle monitor painted a damning picture, showing his exact movements on the day of the murder. Cell phone records corroborated witness statements, creating an unbreakable timeline that placed him at the scene during the critical window when Kylie was shot. Prosecutors built their case methodically, presenting a narrative of escalating domestic violence that culminated in the ultimate act of control, taking the life of an innocent child to inflict maximum pain on her mother. They argued that Jones's actions were premeditated, pointing to his violation of the protective order and his deliberate choice to target Kylie. The defense team faced a nearly impossible task. With such overwhelming physical evidence and clear motive, they attempted to argue for lesser charges, suggesting the killing wasn't premeditated but rather a crime of passion. During the trial, the courtroom was packed with community members, domestic violence advocates, and Kylie's family. Brittany's testimony was particularly powerful as she described the escalating pattern of abuse and her desperate attempts to protect her daughter through legal channels. Her words painted a picture of a mother who had done everything right, sought help, obtained protective orders, tried to escape, yet still couldn't save her child from her abuser's final act of revenge. The prosecution's case was airtight. They presented witness statements and expert testimony about domestic violence patterns. They showed how Jones's actions fit the classic profile of an abuser who, when faced with losing control over his victim, escalates to the ultimate act of violence. At the time of this documentary, the trials are still ongoing. Brittany has also been updating the information about the trial on her Facebook page. She's willing to see to the end of this matter and ensure her baby gets justice. The Houston community's response to Kylie's murder was swift and profound. Vigils were held, domestic violence organizations saw increased donations and volunteer applications, and local lawmakers began discussing stronger protections for domestic violence victims and their children. Kylie's death became a rallying cry for change, though that change came too late for one precious little girl. This case highlights critical warning signs that we all need to recognize. Domestic violence rarely starts with physical abuse. It begins with control, isolation, and emotional manipulation. When abusers face consequences like protective orders or arrest, the danger often escalates rather than decreases. The most dangerous time for domestic violence victims is often when they try to leave or seek help. What do you think could have prevented this tragedy? Was it a failure of the legal system? A lack of resources, or something deeper in how we address domestic violence as a society? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective might help someone else recognize warning signs or seek help. If cases like this matter to you, if you believe in justice for victims like Kylie, make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell. These stories need to be told, these victims need to be remembered. And we all need to stay informed about the realities of domestic violence in our communities.